Imagine pulling up to your own family cabin, the one that's been in your bloodline for decades, just to stash some boxes for your deployed kid, and bam, a self-appointed neighborhood dictator in a golf cart screeches to a halt, accusing you of squatting like you're some vagrant off the highway. That's exactly how Greg Dalton's nightmare kicked off on a crisp April Saturday. The kind of day where the lake air smells like freedom. But in Cedar Ridge lakefront community, freedom comes with a side of ridiculous rules enforced by a clipboard-wielding busybody. Trust me, folks, this isn't just a petty spat. It's a masterclass in how one power-hungry Karen can turn a peaceful lakeside haven into a battlefield of bureaucracy, only to get hilariously hoisted by her own petard. Greg had always been the quiet type, the guy who nodded politely at block parties while rumors swirled about his mysterious absences, whispers that he was dodging debts or hiding some shady past, all because he kept to himself after his wife's passing. But inside, he was sharp as a tack, observing the absurdities of Cedar Ridge like a hawk watching mice scurry. The community was picture-perfect on the surface. Manicured lawns, sparkling docks, and that HOA promising harmony and order. Harmony my foot. It was more like a cult of conformity, where forgetting to trim your hedges could earn you a scarlet letter of shame via passive-aggressive newsletters. That morning, Greg's truck bed was loaded with Fiona's gear, duffel bags stuffed with Air Force fatigues, a few photo albums smelling faintly of lavender from his late wife, and boxes of knickknacks from her old apartment. Fiona was halfway around the world, serving her country, and Greg figured the cabin empty since his wife's death was the perfect spot to store it all until she rotated back. No big deal, right? Wrong. As he hefted the first box toward the porch, tires crunched gravel behind him. Entered Jeline Lancaster, HOA President Extraordinaire, zooming up in her pristine white golf cart like she was patrolling a war zone. "What in the name of community standards do you think you're doing, Gregory?" Jeline barked, hopping out with the grace of a drill sergeant on caffeine. Her arms folded so tightly over her starched blouse that Greg half expected her to pop a button. Clipboard in hand, pen poised like a dagger, she eyed the truck as if it were smuggling state secrets. "Moving my daughter's stuff in, Jeline," Greg replied calmly, setting the box down. "She's deployed overseas." Lease ended. Cabin seemed like the logical spot. Jeline's lips curled into that signature smirk, the one that said, "I am the law, and you are but a peasant." She tapped her pen rhythmically, each click a tiny judgment. "Oh, really? No moving permit filed with the board? And on a weekend? Trailers, or whatever this monstrosity is, require 48-hour advance notice. This is unauthorized activity, plain and simple. Possible squatting, even." Greg chuckled, wiping sweat from his brow. "Squatting? Jeline, I've owned this place for 23 years. Paid every dues on time. It's not a trailer. It's a Ford F-150. And squatting implies I don't belong here, which, last I checked, my deed says otherwise." Her eyes narrowed to slits, like he'd just suggested painting the community gazebo neon pink. "We'll see about that. Standards must be upheld, Gregory. For the good of all." With a flourish, she yanked out her phone and dialed, her voice dripping with faux concern as she reported suspicious activity to the sheriff's office. Greg stood there, arms crossed, watching her performance. Inside, he was already cataloging this absurdity, the way she puffed up like a peacock defending its turf, all because a few boxes threatened her iron-fisted reign. 20 minutes later, The county cruiser arrived. Lights off but presence ominous. Deputy Monroe climbed out, adjusting his belt, looking like he'd rather be fishing. "Greg," he sighed, recognizing him from last year's 4th of July barbecue. "Jeline here claims trespassing. Says you're not authorized." Greg gestured to the cabin. "You've eaten my grilled walleye, Monroe. You know this is mine." He fetched the deed from inside, a crisp, notarized document that screamed legitimacy. While Greg was gone, Jeline leaned in toward the deputy, her voice a conspiratorial whisper. "You see those boxes? Could be anything: weapons, contraband. Military families, you know. Unpredictable. We have rules for a reason, to protect our serene lifestyle." Monroe rubbed his temples, scanning the deed when Greg returned. "Looks legit to me. He's on his property." "Ma'am, but the boxes," Jeline insisted, her voice pitching up like a bad opera singer. "What if it's illegal storage? We can't have riffraff disrupting the peace." The deputy shot Greg a sympathetic glance. "Ma'am, unless you want me citing you for false reports, I'd suggest dropping it. County's got real crimes to handle." Jeline huffed, muttering about declining standards, and peeled off in her golf cart, leaving a trail of gravel dust and entitlement. Greg thought that was the end, a silly anecdote for Fiona's next video call. But that night, under the porch light, he found it, a violation notice duct taped to his door like a medieval edict. Bold red letters screamed, "Unauthorized property usage, fine, $500. Hearing pending." The violation listed everything from unapproved vehicle presence to potential hoarding. Greg's blood boiled. This wasn't just about boxes. It was an attack on his family, his sanctuary. Jeline had crossed a line, and for the first time in years, Greg felt that old fire ignite. He wasn't going to pay or plead, oh no. He was going to dismantle her empire of nonsense, brick by bureaucratic brick. By Monday, Greg was done playing nice. He peeled off the notice, preserved it like evidence from a crime scene, and headed to the county records office. The cabin wasn't just wood and memories. It was his anchor, the spot where Fiona had skipped stones as a kid, where his wife's laughter still echoed in the wind. Jeline's petty power play? It was like slapping a "no fun allowed" sign on paradise. But Greg, ever the observer, knew bullies like her thrived on silence. Not anymore. At the clerk's desk, he requested every scrap on the Cedar Ridge Lakefront Association charters. Minutes, budgets, the works. The clerk, a no-nonsense woman named Rita, arched an eyebrow. "That's a lot of paper, hon. What's the beef?" "Just upholding standards," Greg said with a wry smile, echoing Jeline's favorite phrase. Rita chuckled and hauled out the files. For hours, Greg pored over them in a stuffy reading room, coffee going cold beside him. That's when he spotted the first red flag, a charter amendment from 2 years back, claiming to boost funds for shoreline beautification. But the ledger? Zilch on actual work, no invoices for mulch or mowers. Instead, a fat $12,000 payout to Ridgewater Management Solutions, a ghost company tied to a P.O. box. A quick cross-check on his phone revealed the manager, Jeline's nephew, a slick 20-something with a LinkedIn profile screaming, "Entrepreneurial opportunist." Greg photocopied it all, including the original charter demanding a 2/3 owner vote for changes. The amendment minutes? Just 4 bored cronies rubber-stamping it over coffee. No community ballot. Boom. Invalid from the get-go. Jolene's rules were built on quicksand. But paper alone wouldn't topple her. Greg needed allies. That evening, he cruised the neighborhood, knocking on doors of folks he'd seen cower under Jolene's glare. First stop, Carl Hammond, the grizzled retiree tinkering in his garage. "Greg? Thought you were just passing through." Carl grunted, wrench in hand. "Staying longer now," Greg replied. "You vote on that shoreline amendment? The one hiking dues." Carl snorted. "Vote?" Jolene said it was board discretion. "Never saw a form." "Why?" Greg showed him the docs. "Because it was illegal. And that money funneled to her family." Carl's eyes widened. "That explains the emergency assessments for nothing. Count me in for whatever you're planning." By Thursday, Greg had 11 affidavits from residents, tales of ignored votes, mystery fees, and Jolene's golf cart patrols that felt more like surveillance than service. One woman confessed to paying a holiday decor fine for lights Jolene deemed too festive. Greg compiled it all and fired it off to the county compliance office. But he wasn't stopping there. He rang up his old Army pal, now a sharp real estate lawyer in Madison. "Greg, you sly dog," the lawyer laughed over the phone. "Oh, you won from that '03 mess. What's the play? Dissolve the HOA. Draft a petition 60% majority does it under state law." The lawyer whistled. "Bold. But doable. Send me the dirt." Greg did, and soon had an airtight petition disguised as the Cedar Ridge Freedom Coalition, neutral enough to fly under Jolene's radar. He hit the pavement, petition in hand, sharing the financial bombshells door to door. Reactions were gold, jaws dropping, eyes rolling at Jolene's antics. "She fined me for my hose not being aesthetically coiled." Trent, the postal worker, fumed, signing with gusto. "Paid up to avoid her newsletters blasting me as a slob." Turns out, Jolene's fines often vanished into her personal PayPal, with zero receipts for claimed upkeep. She ran the HOA like her private ATM, doling out absurd edicts, no visible laundry lines in a rural lakeside spot, or mandatory neutral paint tones that mysteriously favored her nephew's supply company. Greg hit 73% signatures by Tuesday, filing it with the registrar under Wisconsin Statute 73.27. The vote would seal the HOA's fate. But Jolene smelled blood. Friday, as Greg stowed the last box, a black SUV rolled up, sheriff's deputies, warrants in hand. "Mr. Dalton, inspection for illegal subletting," Officer Langley announced, looking sheepish. "Subletting? This is my kid's stuff. She's in Qatar," Greg exclaimed, stepping aside. Langley poked around, finding zilch. Complaint said vacation rentals. Cash deals. Greg smirked. Jolene's last gasp. "Here's the petition, her amendments are fraud." Langley nodded. "Talk to Detective Carr in financial crimes." "This stinks." Monday, Greg dumped his dossier on Carr's desk. The detective's eyes bugged at the ledgers. "This ain't mismanagement. It's embezzlement. Wire fraud territory." Word spread like lake ripples. The vote certified, dissolving the HOA. Jolene lawyered up as assets froze and subpoenas flew. At the public meeting, Carr listed sins: tax dodges, fake statements, nephew's cash grabs. Gasps echoed as Jolene sat stone-faced. The commissioner declared, association dissolved. Funds refunded. Future bodies? Transparent or bust. Residents filed out, slapping Greg's back. No cheers, just stunned relief. Jolene got indicted. Embezzlement. Fraud docs. Her nephew bolted. Golf cart seized. Peace returned. But the audit unearthed more. Forged deeds. Tampered boundaries. Carr called Greg mid-dock sanding. Forgery too. She reassigned land, including your shoreline. Greg gripped the phone. Mine? She forged my signature. Yep. Backdated plat. Dead notary seal. Felony fraud. Need your statement. Greg drove in, signing amid photocopies of Jolene's arrogance. He stopped at Carl's. She tried snatching your doc too. Carl cursed. That drainage check? Liar. That night, Greg rallied neighbors at the boathouse. No HOA. Just coffee and truth. He passed forgeries. Outrage boiled. Trent shared altered easements. Louisa revealed a view fee extortion. Carr expanded the probe. Invented charges like resonance fees for speakers. Theft tally, $80,000 plus. Media swarmed. Jolene's name became HOA horror shorthand. She fled. House padlocked. Residents rebuilt voluntarily. Shared maintenance. No fines. Greg helped Carl set concrete markers. Think she planned to sell? Carl asked. She planned plenty, Greg said. Failed spectacularly. By summer, charges piled. Fraud. Forgery. Wire fraud. Pre-trial. Carr revealed more. A lease for Greg's shoreline to tourists. Greg laughed. Audacious. Carr. Power unchecked. The hearing unveiled emails to developers selling community land for kickbacks. Gallery gasped. Jolene's lawyers begged a plea, full blame, asset surrender, testimony. Judge agreed, with restitution. House arrest. No contact. Outside. Air fresher. Community thrived. Voluntary packs. Cleanups. Carved bench of contributors. Greg told Fiona via video. War on HO1. She grinned. Held the line. Dad. Sentencing. Suspended term. Probation. $75,000 payback. Barred from leadership. Jolene slunk out. Alone. Winter froze the lake. Greg shoveled paths. Taped the bench photo. Still hours. A reminder. Right actions start small boxes. Doors. Refusal. But here's the kicker. Folks, was Jolene the real villain? Or just a symptom of systems letting clipboard tyrants run amok? You tell me right or wrong.